Μέχρι τώρα, μέχρι σήμερα, μέχρι αυτή τη στιγμή στη Διμερίδα έχουν συζητηθεί περισσότερο θέματα που αφορούν στο πώς να γίνει μια ταινία. Πώς θα προσελκύσει κανείς τους συμπαραγωγούς, πώς θα αποκτήσει την καλύτερη δυνατή κατάρτιση για να επιτύχει, να ολοκληρώσει την ταινία, πώς θα εξασφαλίσει τη στήριξη του εθνικού ή των εθνικών φορέων ή και του ερημάζ. Δημιουργείται το εύλογο ερώτημα, αφού ολοκληρωθεί η ταινία, τι γίνεται. Πώς ο παραγωγός θα αποσβέσει το κόστος παραγωγής και ενδεχομένως θα αποκτήσει κάποια κέρδη ή πώς, σε πάση περιπτώσει, θα δει και το κοινό την ταινία. Έχοντας μία συζήτηση εδώ με τους καλεσμένους σε σχέση με το τι συμβαίνει σήμερα στη διεθνή αγορά, έχουμε καταλήξει ότι έχει αλλάξει, το μοντέλο αλλάζει συνεχώς. Θα σας παρουσιάσω αρχικά τους φιλοξενούμενους. Έχουμε τον Ed Guiney από την Element Pictures, τον οποίον θα αρχίσετε να ακούτε συχνά, γιατί είναι ο κύριος παραγωγός του Lobster, της νέας ταινίας του Γιώργου Λάνθιμου. Την Pierre Macia, η οποία είναι παραγωγός στην ταινία του Πάνου Κούτρα «Ξενία». Την Kasia Karwan από την Premium Films, είναι η εταιρεία διεθνούς εκπροσώπησης της ταινίας «Το αγόρι τρώει το φαγητό του πουλιού» του Έκτορα Λιγίζου, και ο Guillaume Desailles της Arizona Film, ο οποίος έχει εταιρεία παραγωγής, έχει συνεργαστεί αρκετές φορές με Έλληνες παραγωγούς. Και περισσότερα θα ξεκινήσουμε τώρα με έναν να μας παρουσιάσουν ποια είναι η εμπειρία τους σε σχέση με τις ελληνικές ταινίες και όχι μόνο. Και ξεκινώντας με τον Guillaume, θα ήθελα να ρωτήσω ποια είναι η ιδέα του σε σχέση με το πώς έχει αλλάξει η αγορά. Δηλαδή, μέχρι σήμερα οι περισσότερες ταινίες, μόλις ολοκληρώνονται, θέλουν να πάνε σε κάποιο μεγάλο φεστιβάλ και να βρουν sales agent. Πότε πρέπει να ξεκινήσει αυτό, να αναρωτιέται ο παραγωγός τι θα κάνω με την ταινία μόλις ολοκληρωθεί, σε ποιο στάδιο?
So hello again, very interesting subject. So yeah, let's talk about first the end of the filmmaking and the expectation or the kind of old model we were all living with in the last decade. Of course, sales companies are always interested into making money. That's, you know, the prime goal. Is not exactly, and it's for distribution and sales. The prime problem I've encountered is they don't care so much about quality, unfortunately, because, and it's true, they have a team and they need to make money. So they have a very, you know, direct relationship to the film that we've spent most of the time 3 to 4 years to achieve. And this is a bit of a problem when the economic crisis arises, like it's happening in the art house industry in general. Of course, the only good moment is between the festival, the first world premiere festival invitation, and the screening itself. And it's almost the only moment when we can cut really deals. There's lots of exceptions, and we can tease as much as we can sales company between the moment we know we have the final cut, so we have something to show and we give it to festivals. But basically, they always commit as soon as you have this invitation somewhere. So, and the key advice also, because I've seen this a lot and I'm still surprised it still happens, be very careful with the world premiere you accept, because if it's not in your country, and if it's not big, in a way, then you will lose lots of opportunities. So be sure to talk with people, with Greek Film Center, with festivals specialists, not to burn your chance because you have this, like, let's say, 2 flights and accommodation invitation somewhere we don't know very much about, then it will kill lots of chance for international exposure. But this said, if you have, let's say, one of the top 15 festival invitations somewhere, then you have basically a window of 2 to 3 weeks before the catalog is printed to find a sales company. And of course, what we usually did in the past, and probably maybe you will not so much in 1 hour, is of course to go to the big companies and you create basically a list because you've heard they were sexy and powerful and strong and you want to belong to that club. So that really much happened, and I think it probably happened with this Greek film I didn't see yet, but in Venice, basically you hit for Wild Bunch, and they have a very nice trick, or they had a very nice trick. It's, if your potential of the film is not basically $200,000, because below Vincent will not go, because he needs to make a commission, we'll get back to this, then if the potential is too low, then it kicks you in this kind of sister company called L Driver, and it's then very difficult to make something out of this. So there's, tricks to know. And then you go down to the list, and it's still difficult, because if you go deep down to the list, you might still have some problems with what we call the historical sales company. And for one specific reason, and then we will talk to these new models that we all represent, and it's very much focused on a Greek example, let's say, in theory, not in particular. So I have a question for you guys, especially those who can calculate a little bit in their head. Let's say the deal usually with a historical sales company, big or small, is more or less always the same. Is 30% on commercial profit for them, commission, and they get 50% of the non-commercial profit, which is more or less always festival screening fees or institution rentings. So they get 30 on commercial, 50 on commercial. And of course, they recoup their expenses first. And most of the regular average deal is basically 25,000 euros. So now let's say that you have 30,000 euros gross from sales profit and 8,000 euros gross out of festival, 30 and 8, 38. With 25 expenses, how much would you get, you as the right owner? Give me a number. 0. This man is right. Do you understand why? 30,000 euros, 30% commissions mean 9, so the revenue is 21. 8,000 euros out of festival, which is average. 50% commission means 4. 21 plus 4 equal 25, exact the amount of expenses. So the balance in the end of the year is 0 for you guys. So this happens so much, and you spend 3 years on the film, and you didn't get paid, sometimes, not always, but it happens a lot, and you make 38, which is a lot. I mean, 30,000 euros is at least 5 to 8 countries, so it's not small, it's not 0. And you don't get anything. So most of us, we are not very happy with this, and we kind of try to find other models, if we can. Because if you go also very down to the list, you might not find anybody. So then the question is, should you do it yourself? Should you do it with your national institution? Or should we find some other more interesting models? There's no answer, and we're going to talk a lot about this. My experience with this, so it's on the international sales line there, because basically this website is for French theater owners. It's mainly oriented into distribution. I did it 3 times. Actually, I did an update on the last Locarno film. I do it myself when, of course, no one wants to do it. So I did this with what was it, Rotterdam Cannes title, and on a Korean also title that was in Berlin, and also a bit on the Georgian one that is not there, that is bringing me income actually, and recently on a film from Azerbaijan in Locarno. So who cares about a first film Azerbaijan in Locarno? Nobody. But still, I know the festivals, and I usually can get 5,000 euros out of screening fees. I know some institutions, especially in Asia, like Fukuoka or Global Film Initiative in US, and it's $15,000, so it's not nothing. So in the end, for those films, I get basically 30,000 euros back over a year of job, and it's not, half-time job. And then we can share 50-50 with the basically the main producer. So with 20 gross, he gets 10. So it's a bit better than with 38, you get nothing. But still, it requires some kind of a experience, you know, to also negotiate screening fees. And maybe then just, I will talk about another model I like, and she's not here, but she's also very interesting, about these screening fees. Pascale Ramonda is a French girl, also a bit like Pierre with Marie-Pierre, was working for 10 years in Celluloid, one of the most interesting historical companies, although Ngame is tough. Pascale left a couple of years ago, and she launched a boutique of festival screening fee stuff. So push the. Oh, do you have it, Pascale, on pascaleramonda.com? And she's basically handling. Oh yeah, Thanos Anastopoulos with his film in Berlin was exactly between Celluloid and Pascale, and actually signed with her, and is pretty happy. And the deal with Pascale is a bit like mine, but she's more doing just the online work. She basically shares 50-50 the screening fees, but she's not doing the post work or sending DVDs. Of course, online is supposed to work, but no, programmers still request very much DVDs, so it's time consuming and a bit of cost. And she's basically not doing the accounting, so the smart way she found is one festival, the money goes to the producer, the next festival the money goes to her, and in the end they try to balance it with the numbers, because screening fees are basically between 200 and 1,000 euros each time. So she shared this way, and she's very clever with this panel of 300-400 festivals around the world that request our films and could pay a little bit for it, or even not. Sometimes you just get a ticket or you just get an audience, like Nikki said, and it's also very interesting for a country with no possibility to be screened with 500 viewers there. It's important for you and for the future of your career. So that's my example and a bit of Pascale, and we're going to hear pretty interesting stuff.
We're going to pass on to just small parentheses. The festival fees, like we were saying before, is something that also is done by the Greek Film Center. And for the films that don't have somebody to represent it, and the people who work with us already know that we negotiate the fees. And we go on to the other model, premium films. The company started as a short film sales agency, very successful, one of the few in the world. You have around
15 years ago.
15 years ago,
yes,
yeah.
So basically our company is quite new regarding the feature films, because we started developing feature film sales only 1.5 years ago, and basically the company got specialized in short films. So as you say, this is something that many of you might not know, that you can actually sell short films, and there's a little market for it. You do it worldwide, so there's a bunch of TV channels mostly. However, this is slightly changing right now. So there's more and more opportunities to work your short. So basically this is the main field that premium film got specialized in. So in terms of short films, we have a catalog which is pretty big. It's like around 800 short films, but we acquire we still do short films, even if we are developing the feature part, the feature film sales part, but we still do work with short films, and we acquire around up to 50 short films a year, which is not a lot. We try to keep it selective, so that since the market is very competitive for shorts, and short films that can get some sort of distribution have to be very high quality ones to be broadcast. So we have to keep it selective. And for instance, to give you an idea, the films that almost every year we have short films in Cannes. We have films, very often films nominated for Oscars. And it doesn't happen I would say that we have a pretty good like brand within the short films field, on that field. And basically that was the idea some time ago. Well, my boss, Jean-Charles, had to since working with short films, you can have you can see the large spectrum of filmmakers and producers, and you can get to know the way people work and learn like about the way they might be creative about. So some time ago we had this idea, actually when I joined the company 1.5 years ago, to track these young filmmakers somehow, because what happens with them next, right? Once they accomplish they finish their short films, and then they are like we lose them from the track. So we didn't want to make it like to work it like this. So yeah, so that's why we started to developing this feature films part. And our first feature film that we acquired were Boy Eating the Bird's Food. This is the title of the Greek film, which is now the Greek official Oscar entry. It was I think it was like our first film, the first film that we acquired, and we also had Leones. So these two films from last year. And yeah, we really started to develop it like little by little. The idea is to have a small catalog of feature films, so that you can work them in deep, and not to abandon films. Like after a couple of months of work, and when you realize that actually films are stuck in the festival circuit, and yeah, but this is another topic, another problem. Yeah, and our maybe to continue what you have started to say is that like short sales agents are mostly interested in making money. Well, I would say that of course this is interesting, but it should be interesting for everybody, because the film you don't it's quite costly to make a film, as you all know. So then you have to have somewhere back in your mind how to recoup it. And if a sales agent makes money, it means that the producer can have some of it as well. Well, in contrary to the historical sales agents you were talking about, well, I would say that we don't work like this in terms of distribution costs. I think that what we want to do, and what we already were doing with short films, is that we want to keep it really transparent, all this question regarding expenses and distribution costs. I mean, we don't march about like deliveries. If we have some spendings to do, this is transparent. We cap the costs, but even if the costs are not capped for like 50 or 40,000 euros, which I think is ridiculous when you work with a first film from Azerbaijan or something. I mean, this is not this range of costs. For instance, well, to give you an idea, the amounts we might propose to people might be like around 10,000 euros, and even if you don't arrive to this amount, you don't recoup this amount. You recoup less. It's transparent. If it's 5 or if it's 7, you recoup 7, right? So yeah. So I guess that in this way we are like imposing a kind of a different model comparing to what you have said. Yeah.
So we're going to talk later on about more concrete examples, like the film you have from Greece, The Boy Eating the Bird's Food. But first we're going to switch to Marie-Pierre Macia. You started as a production company, and then you also opened up to sales with Pierre Menahem, right?
Yeah, when we create MPM film 6 years ago, I always had in mind to, open the company to the sales, because as Titus was saying yesterday, and as we all say, during these 2 days, you don't make money as a producer, and hardly. The kind of film we are making and the kind of film we are defending. So I always thought that, where we can get the cash flow is through the sales. But it's not only for the cash flow, of course. It's also because when you are a producer, at some point, you have to give up your baby, the film you are making, and give up the rights. It can go from 5, 7, or 12 years. For example, our first film, so this is the production, I'm going to go ahead. This is the production side. And, okay, and this is the sales. Well, so the first film, no, it's not here because we did not sell it because so the first film was a Romanian movie called Hooked by Adrian Sitaru. He was released here in the Greece by Odeon, and he was the sales agent was Rezo. At this time, 6 years ago, the market was still good because we sell it to Rezo is a very good sales agent. They are doing sales and distribution in France, and we sell it with a minimum guarantee, which is today extraordinary. But 6 years ago it was quasi normal. But today for this kind of film we will get 0 as a minimum guarantee. So and we sell the rights of the film for 12 years. So it was kind of painful as a first time experience of production to sell it for 12 years. But it was a good experience because we got a very good MG. So after that the next film, I don't remember exactly the next film, was a documentary, a Palestinian documentary, Part of Memory by Kamal Al-Jafari. And the next production was, we had the Turin Horse by Bellatar. But for Bella, we did not, at this time we did not have the sales department, not yet. So the sales agent for Bellatar is Film Boutique, based in Germany. And we start the sales with a film called Historias. This one. Going to see the photo here, the top. So it was we of course we show it to a lot of sales agents, and they all love the film and say, it's a beautiful film, but we're not going to sell it. It's too small. So we decided this time, okay, this is the right moment to go and to create the sales department. So we create the sales department because this film, and of course, to sell a film, it's a very specific job. Of course, I know a lot of distributors around the world. I have a big network, but I don't know the job. So I call Pierre. Pierre Menahem, as Guillaume was saying, used to be the sales responsible for sales in Celluloid Dreams, a big company. And he was at the time where he wanted to do something else, differently, not big. So I show him the film, he loves the film, and I say, you want to start to work on this film? And it was like one shot. And he said yes, and this small film that people were saying that it was not sellable, we went to Venice at Venice Days and Toronto, and we sold it in about now 10 countries, including the US and Canada. And the festival is still has still his career the film has still his career in festival. He's still getting prize from festival 3 years later. And because we decided that, we will not take so many films, we will take also some other films than our own production. And by taking very few films, we will take care of the film very like our own films. So, and we will be very transparent about, the money. So this film we managed. It's kind of a success story because in its own scale, because we managed to reimburse all the co-producers. We are also co-producers, so we are sales and co-producers. So we managed to reimburse all the co-producers from the debt they have, and we make a little bit of money out of it. And the co-producer saw the first money coming basically 3 months later, 4 months later. We have very low expenses. I mean, we managed to go to small hotel, to not go to a lot of restaurants. So we are very, very minimum expenses when we go to festival. We don't offer a minimum guarantee because we don't have the money, but we can at some point. And we would love to do that, but for the moment, no. But the co-producer can see the money in 3 months. We don't have expenses, etc., etc. So this is the first film, and the goal also is to try not to have too many films, like 5, 6 films maximum a year, because the idea is to really take care of the film, not in one festival, but for at least 1 year. So just to give you an idea, so we had this first film, it was in Venice and Toronto, and after that we had we had this film, La Sirga, which was in the Director's Fortnight in Cannes. And we had Kuf in the Turkish film who got last year. He was in Critic Weeks and got the Lion du Futur, the Lion of the Future, in Venice. So this film is not selling very well, but we knew. But what is interesting in doing the sales, so for me, personally, with my background as a programmer, it's also to be able, when I fall in love with a film like this one, to be able to maybe work on the next film with the director. So it's like also a bet and a risk I want to take for the future with the filmmaker I love. So this film, I fall in love with the film, and I believe it. And when we went to Venice, we got refused in Cannes. And when we got in Venice, the first one who bought the film who fall in love with the film was Nanni Moretti, and bought the film for Italy. But we did not sell the film very much because it's a very difficult topic and very tough film. But we managed not to lose any money. And for me, this is the main thing: not to lose money, but also to be able to bet on the future of this filmmaker.
So, Marie, what you're saying is that even if a film which gets into a sidebar of a big festival, like not sidebar exactly, but for the Director's Fortnight, or in Critics Weeks, you said it was the Mold, right?
In Venice, yeah.
Yeah. Even if you don't have sales, even if the film is there, which is pretty big, I mean, to have a film there, even if you don't make sales afterwards, the important is that you're going to invest on that to do something in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, even if we don't do so many sales, we also do like a festival, the film has a career in festival for at least for 1 or 2 years.
So you can somehow recoup the cost from the festival fees.
Yeah.
That's another point of view, saying that you have got something out of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we go to Ed, who also I didn't mention before. He Element Pictures is production company, and also you have your own distribution department for Ireland. So you let us know your experience.
Okay. Can I just ask Marie-Pierre a question before I start? Do you represent films that you haven't co-produced?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For example, this one we did not co-produce. This one was in Toronto and San Sebastian for the Jasmila Zbanic film. Workers. These 3 films were in Berlin. We did not.
This is one of the best films of the year.
Mexican film, very. Thank you. I approve, of course. And these 3 films were in Berlin. Workers, Habi, and A World Not Ours, Palestinian film. So for this year, this is the 4 films this year. And yes, we and also our own production. We don't obviously necessarily. For example, Xenia, the Greek film, we decide not to sell it because Panos has some link with also with some French distribution, French sales agent, and also because we think that it's a bigger film for us, and we want to give all the chance to the film and to reach the right target, and to so we probably will have an important sales agent.
I'll talk a little bit about distribution and just our approach to how we go about that. A number of years ago, we're producers in Ireland, and one of the quirks of the Irish distribution is that Ireland is considered to be part of the UK in terms of distribution. So in other words, if you sell a film for the UK, you get Ireland thrown in, which is of course very annoying to Irish people. So we found that a lot of the films that we produced or co-produced, which were Irish subject matter, like The Magdalene Sisters and The Wind That Shakes the Barley, were distributed back into Ireland from London by British distributors, and they did very well in Ireland. And we thought there was something slightly wrong with this. So we decided to set up our own distribution company so that we could at least hold on to the Irish territory and handle the distribution of the films ourselves in Ireland. So we set up the distribution company in 2007, and the first film we distributed was a film called Garage, which we also produced, which had been at the Cannes Zen, and since then we distribute, as much as possible, we distribute the films that we produce ourselves. Sometimes it's not always possible, because bigger UK distributors come along and offer a lot of money, and that means that we're just in some circumstances not able to hold on to the rights. But by and large, we do keep the rights, and we would distribute typically 1 or 2 of our own films a year, either films we've produced or co-produced, and then maybe another 4 or 5 or 6, generally Irish films. We also, part of what allows us to fund our distribution company is that we sub-distribute for Studio Canal in Ireland, the French company, so that we handle all of their films in Ireland, which means that we can have some income to support the infrastructure of a distribution company. And I suppose it was obvious for us that, and everyone recognizes that being a producer is very difficult financially. And the reason we set up the distribution company was so that we could at least capture some of the income from the film in our own territory, at the very least. And that has, by and large, worked out for us. We've done 2 other things to help us capture value in films that we're involved in. One is that we set up a video-on-demand platform in Ireland, which is called Volta.ie. Volta.ie. And Volta is part of a pan-European video-on-demand platform called Eurovod. The French Universiné is the kind of parent company, if you like. And because generally what you find is that cinema owners do not like day and date. Generally, they don't like that model. But because we own the cinema ourselves, we're happy to entertain the notion of a day and date. And part of the advantage of day and date, I think particularly for kind of art house or independent or specialty films, is that you spend money to promote the film when it goes into the theaters, and you create awareness. And for people who don't live near an art house cinema, who live outside of the main cities, they're not going to be able to watch that film for months and months and months, sometimes years. And I suppose the advantage for us is that we can spend money to promote the film in the cinema, but we also allow it to be downloaded at the same moment, so that if you live outside of Dublin, you can watch that film, you can read the reviews, and you can watch that film at the same time. And we had some success with an American film called Mea Maxima Culpa, which was a documentary about child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church in America, which is a hot topic in Ireland. A very good documentary by Alex Gibney, and we day and dated that, and it did very well on video on demand when we did that. So that's just a different way that we have found to try and capture value in what we do. The other thing I should say in terms of sales is, and what everyone here is saying is interesting. I mean, we generally try and attach a sales agent before we finish the film. We generally try and attach a sales agent when we're financing the film. That isn't always the case. Because sometimes the sales agent you can get when you're financing the film is not necessarily the sales agent you really want. So you're better off not taking somebody substandard and waiting until you can show the film. Because sometimes the good ones can't see the potential of the film from the script and what you're proposing at a script stage. But generally we try and, if we can, we try and knit a good sales agent into the process because they can be helpful in terms of strategy and planning and festivals and making the right choices in that regard. If we don't get a sales agent up front, we tend to screen once we finish the film, and sometimes if we have festival news. I'm surprised actually to hear the figures that Guillaume has mentioned, 30% commission, because that's certainly not my experience, and generally I deal with sales agents in the UK, not always. It's less on English-speaking films, right? Maybe that's the case.
The market is more...
Right, forgiving, right. Well, obviously it's a different question, but it's also interesting to hear these new models of sales and getting your film out there, which gives us hope. I think the real challenge, is just how you can highlight, what are fantastic films and bring them to the attention of the population, of the cinema-going audience. Because the frustrating thing is, for maybe the film that you mentioned, Guillaume, Workers, which I haven't seen, I don't know. I'm sure people in Ireland would like to see the film, but how it gets from... No, I know how I could, but I'm just using it as an example. It's how it gets from the festival, from the sales agent, to the cinemas in Ireland. And obviously distributors are slow to take risks on stuff, but I do think with the possibility of video on demand platforms, day and date, digital distribution, which means you can, like in our cinema, what we don't program, one screen all day, one film. We have 3 or 4 films very often in one screen on a day. So we can have a documentary, we can have a feature film, so that the pressure is off in a sense, and you can offer greater choice. And I think in a world where we can offer greater choice because of video on demand, and also because of the ability to screen theatrically, the challenge is then how do you then alert the public to all of these wonderful films that they won't hear about otherwise, and that just live in catalogues and don't get seen.
For example, all your films are on this platform on video on demand? All your films?
Yes.
So for you, it's like production. This is a distribution. On video on demand.
Of the films that you can see there, about well, 3 or 4 of them are films that we've distributed, but obviously a lot of them are films from other distributors.
Mm-hmm. Να ρωτήσουμε αν υπάρχουν ερωτήσεις καθόλου από το κοινό. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I have a question for Ed Guiney about the the VOD platform, the Volta. So, do you do VOD distribution of a film that has not been picked up by a distributor in Ireland at all? So no day and date, no awareness, no anything?
Occasionally, we as a distribution company, we're not set up to distribute films, non-Irish films. We generally don't do that. But occasionally we come across something and we'll distribute it. Occasionally we take UK rights as well, and occasionally just Irish rights. So to answer your question, it's very unlikely. Any film that's on Volta will have a distributor, but sometimes the distributor will be us. But all of the other films come from other distributors. UK distributors like Momentum and Artificial Eye and Pathé and etc. etc. No, it doesn't. No. It doesn't have to have had distribution in Ireland. Some of the films that are on Volta haven't been in the cinema.
You have one of the films that we have on sale.
Oh.
Hit So Hard.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
The documentary Hit So Hard.
Well, just one question. As I understand that what you're talking about is of great interest for the Greek filmmakers here, producers. And maybe one thing they've said is that actually the kind of auteur films, or at least the Greek films that we know that get awards around the festivals now, are not very easy to sell, probably. And you have established something quite interesting that is, and we all know, is the relation of festivals and selling. And that festivals may become one of the main sources of revenue. Now, one question that may be of interest for the public here. If you have a film, an auteur film, which is selected in the panorama, let's say. That means Berlin, that has the European film market. And the director and the producer has a dilemma either to accept this or to try to go to a prestigious festival like Locarno, for instance, or Carlo Vivari, Locarno, let's say, and then he doesn't know what to do. What would be your advice? I have my opinion, but it's your opinion that's more important. That is the relation, because festivals, markets, and revenue. Thank you.
Thanks to Nikki, I had that case almost this year. Thanks to Nikki here, look, he's smiling. I was almost in this situation this year. With this Georgian film, I was not invited in Panorama, but in Forum, and I started to create the buzz in Les Arcs with the work in progress competition there, and there was some positive feedback, let's say. And of course, my team, I mean, the directors and the German producer, didn't agree with me. I mean, I was, let's go and do great in Berlin and then have a long series of festivals, and they were like most of the, let's say, young talents, and I say this very with love. They were like, oh, it's so good, it has to be in Cannes. I had a hard 2 weeks, because even, I mean, there's no clue, there's no recipe, there's no, you know, obvious answer at that time, except I know Nikki, and, oh yeah, Ada Salomon, the producer of The Child Pose, said something very important to me last week in Kazakhstan. She said, it's not the question of being invited, it's the question of being loved. And Nikki, I knew this, loved the film. And this is more important than the size of the section you're in, because those guys, they spread the word, and he didn't stop for 6 months, including this morning, to spread the word anytime he could. This is a great Georgian first film. And this is much more than the slot you can get between Panorama or Forum, even much more that should I be in the beginning during the market or in the end when everybody has left. I mean, the idea is not to be invited, it's to feel love. So if you feel that, and it's a good one, go.
Yeah, well,
Sorry to say it, but the question is, would you suggest, would you propose, would you agree that a film can go to something like Panorama, for instance, because there is the European film market, which might be much more interesting for a film than to wait to be in competition in Locarno, for instance? Obviously, in Panorama, they like the film, they love the film, they will speak about the film.
But
so why not to use this and have the Berlin film market attached instead of going to more prestigious competition without any
I mean, when you want to launch a film, you have to launch it in the best position. So the best position now, it's easy. It's starting with Berlin, Cannes, Venice, Toronto. I mean, Toronto, it's something different. Let's say these 3 festivals. If you get invited to one of these festivals, of course, you go without hesitation. In any section.
I mean, we go. Sometimes the talents don't agree, but we go.
And you have to convince your talent and your producer to go. I know an example that, you know, some example, for example, who get invited, and of course people are dreaming of Cannes, but this is stupid because Cannes are selecting a very small amount of film compared to Venice and Berlin. So you cannot count on Cannes. So if you get an invitation to the first festival Berlin, you go.
Can Kasia, from the point of view of the sales agent?
Well, I think that the question about Berlin Panorama and Locarno, well, I wouldn't say it's like without hesitation. I think it also depends on the film. And
I mean, excuse me, but Berlin, Venice or Cannes, you go without hesitation.
but I think, no.
Allez, fight.
Well, I think that it's also it's connected to the second question, which was raised at the beginning, which is at which point should a film have a sales agent attached? Because if you are supposed to go to Berlin Panorama, well, alone without any sales agent, even if there is the EFM, well, big chances that your film will be lost, and then you won't make that much benefit out of it.
No,
Exactly,
this is very true. This is very true. You don't go to a big festival without a sales agent. This is very true. So better to wait a sales agent, because when you show your film in the first festival, like one of these festivals, even Locarno, San Sebastian, etc., and you don't have a sales agent, your film is going to be in the limbo forever.
And I would add to that, sorry if I can intervene. Of course, it depends on which movie you have. You know, we know Panorama, you know, Berlin, it's a huge festival. Only Panorama shows more than 100 films, right? And I think I think it's important to identify which festival good, you know, for your film. And of course, if you can take advantage of that, of the market, let's say, that the festival, for instance, the Berlinale, will give you. And then, you know, if you are in Panorama, you know, let's say you are doing a first-time you're producing a first-time director film or a second time, and we know that this market is huge. It's very important also to see how not to get lost in these hundreds of films that they're showing there. And sometimes, you know, if you have, let's say, a sensitive, more fragile film, it's better to go. That is my personal opinion. It's better to go to a smaller festival like, I don't know, San Sebastian or Locarno, hoping that first of all, you will have the right to compete, because in case you are in Panorama, you know, you lose all the competition festivals in Europe. You cannot compete. I'm talking about the A festival, right? And I think if it is, of course, depending on the movie that you have, let's say if you are in Locarno maybe, or in Carlo Vivari, because it's smaller festival and more concentrate. If you are lucky and you live, let's say you got an award, maybe this will create more awareness about the film, which is very difficult, you know, to get it sometimes in big festivals, because in the big festivals you have all the press concentrating on the big films, not necessarily on the small films. So it is tricky. But if you have, I don't know, a film which is more good for public, I think Panorama is great.
Also, I have an alternative example of a film that was invited to Berlin and Soldat Jeanette, and they chose to go instead of Berlin. They chose Sundance, and then immediately the film went to Rotterdam, both in competition, and in Rotterdam it won the Tiger Award. And I guess that this was a hugely clever choice, actually, because instead of being like one of the many films in a big festival, big selection, the film was shown in smaller showcase when it got like the pole position.
Yeah,
So
of course, if you have the choice of the strategy, and if you get invited by a lot of festivals, if you have the choice, of course you evaluate the strategy. Yeah.
Kasia, who got the Tiger Award cash money?
The producer and the director.
Okay, let's talk about these 2
Who was
minutes.
supposed to get it?
Attends, don't panic. I just want to share 2 minutes to, let's say, a bit pretty bad experience I had this year. And because Ed and I, it doesn't look like, but we are, him and me, half of Émilie Georges from Memento, who didn't show up. And this In Bloom film, I signed with Memento, and there was one every year, basically, the sales company, they invent new clothes, and you have to be pretty careful, especially with this small window of negotiation, of finding someone negotiating and also doing the poster, the trailer, I mean, useless stuff. They invent new clothes that you need to be careful about, and just 2 this year. So one with Memento, that was for every festival that will book the film and will not pay screening fees, because you get the ticket invitation, because you're in competition, and you can get a cash award, so they don't get some festivals don't pay, but still invite you, and sometimes can bring money back. So Memento is charging us 200 euros, just each festival that is not paying. But mine is 30 times. It's still a lot of money I don't get. We don't get. And the second small problem of the year I discovered was with a US sales company. I like the guys very much. It's a visit film. I really like what they do. And we did a Turkish film that was also competing, unfortunately or fortunately, in Rotterdam and didn't get awarded because Visit Film is asking for all the cash awards by contract. And, big fights. I mean, Ryan, come on, you're joking. And he said, yes, but we're fighting so much for the films to be in all this competition of A and B and C size festival that, most of the time we don't get screening fees because we fight for the films to compete. So if you get $10,000, $15,000, we want it. No. I mean, how can I say to my sound engineer if he has best sound, or the actress who always has best actress prize, oh, sorry, you don't get the cash award that is said in the catalog because Visit Film wants it. Wait for the mic. So just to make clear, these 2 episodes happened this year, and every year there's lots of stuff like that, so just be careful and don't read too fast.
But Guillaume, very often when your film receives an award, it's like said by the rules of the festival that it's for the producer or the director, or
there can be
if it's a distribution award, then it can go to the distributor, but no, I'm surprised that you can agree for this type of things.
I didn't agree. No.
Because,
we cut it out, but it was a deal breaker for me. But best film, they still got it. And they're good company. I mean, they do a good job. They do profit. They do sales.
So one last question, because we don't have more time.
Thank you. What about if you have the film, you don't have a sales agent, and you are selected in one festival? Good or not?
Do it yourself, or not?
I mean, you don't go to the festival because you don't have a sales agent.
No, try to find a sales agent.
So you have that short time to find a sales agent. What's the procedure for that short time?
You mean how to contact
Is that,
people?
I mean, doesn't the fact that you have the festival, you are selected for the festival, does that make that procedure faster?
I would say that of course, because many sales agents, and I guess that all of them are very eager to have the films, in main festivals. So this is always an argument that won't, will make that you'll be certainly that how to say, the doors will open, right? I mean, this is a huge argument you should use. Then people are, sales companies always look for films, and especially for films that can have very interesting premieres, because of course, if your film premieres on the main festival, it increases chances for the film, to find a market and to be sold. So, if you know that your film is invited somewhere, then you can contact people and sales companies and telling them what's the plan. But an important thing that I think we should mention before the session closes is that what's also important about having a sales agent attached before the premiere is that the first thing is that with the sales agent you can start working on a market where the film would be premiering, if it's like Cannes, Toronto, Venice, or a small market in Venice, but Berlin. But also you already think about the strategy for the months to come, and this is very important. It's not to postpone it because just right after the main premiere, there's a lot of other festivals coming, and you shouldn't miss the your 5 minutes, because there's so many films being produced and the concurrence is huge. So really, it's and I guess I'm a little bit against this way of thinking of films, like doing films only for the festivals, right? So and this is what we try to do in the company, also to push these films a little bit more to the markets. But in terms of the festivals only, the concurrence is huge, and you have to, together with the sales agent, you have to think about this, what would happen immediately after the premiere of the film. And very often you can confirm other festivals before the premiere. So it makes you like long-term strategy already. Is that clear?
Yeah. More question, yes.
We have 4 more minutes, so.
Hi. Are there any platforms on demand that they give money for producing, like we began here in Greece with Connex, giving funds for producing platform on demand?
Well, yes. I mean, for instance, Netflix and Amazon, and I mean they do put money into programming, and they will theoretically pre-buy films, etc., etc. But you're really talking about big Hollywood movies in that, or Hollywood TV series. But by and large, I don't think that. I mean, sorry, that's not true. I mean, video on demand platforms. I think Université in France will put an advance up for a film. So yes, is the answer. They do. Yeah. Just one thing which I'd just like to mention and really just throw out to everybody here. I think one of the challenges, and I mentioned this briefly earlier, is that we have amazing films and we have an audience that want to watch these films. And the old way of getting the films to the audience, which is sales agent, festival, distributor, cinema, audience, that's broken up. It no longer exists. And so you can have, through video on demand and through digital distribution in cinema, you can have many more films getting to a potential audience than in the past. It's much easier than it was. You can put a film up on a video on demand platform, and if it's not geo-blocked, it's available to the world. Or you can geo-block it to those territories you select. And you can distribute films into cinemas from a central hub, thousands of miles away. So I think the challenge, the question is, how do we as filmmakers and distributors and producers and sales agents, how do we let the audience know about these gems, these wonderful films that have been made? Because I know that there are people in Ireland who would like to go to the cinema and see these films, but they never hear about them. They don't make the connection. So there's a challenge to make the connection between the consumer, the audience member, and the filmmakers, if you like. And there's got to be a new way of doing that. And one way that you see is through festivals, where festivals are kind of curating on a kind of ongoing basis. For instance, in America, you see festivals like Tribeca, who are now moving into distribution, and they're distributing films. I don't know that that's a solution, but we're seeing all sorts of new ways. And there's something very interesting in there, and some genius is going to come up with a way of actually cracking that question. But I do think it's the future, and I think it's a future that suggests that we should be optimistic about the chance of wonderful films. I mean, otherwise, get their moment in the festivals and be in a sales agent's catalogue for a year. Those films may actually have a chance of being distributed and seen around the world.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's true. It's a real question. I mean, this is a question I have in my mind for the last 6 years since I created the company. Did not have. I mean, I have the ideas, but not time. But to go back to this, for example, how many video platforms do you know in the world? I mean, I did not know Volta, for example. So this is how many there is. I mean, on the top of your head.
I actually, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Maybe thousands.
Yeah, probably
So,
thousands. Yeah.
This is already complicated.
No, sure, but it's still a question, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, θα πρέπει να κλείσουμε γιατί we have to close now because we don't have more time. Thank you. Ευχαριστούμε.